What's good, guys? It's Tyler, and today I'm joined by FNS after NRG's big win against Furia. Thank you for joining me, FNS, and congrats on the dub.
Thank you.
You guys were able to bounce back after last week, and you guys were also able to bounce back after Game 1. You guys looked like a different team from Game 1 to 2 and 3. What were kind of the conversations you had between like the players after Game 1, and what were the changes that you needed to make to carry you guys through the series?
So the conversation I had after map 1 was basically that we need to do things the way we do it in practice all the way through. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 need to be followed in that direct order. Don't jump from step 1 to 4. I felt like there was a lot of holes in the way that we were playing due to that fact. There was also one massive call that I messed up, and that's on me. But outside of that, even when we were hitting weaker bomb sites or we were hitting a specific site knowing where people were, we still didn't manage to clear certain angles, didn't do specific post-plant protocols that we've talked about, stuff like that. So kind of just refreshed that for the next maps and just said, okay, we do this stuff together, even if it's the wrong thing to do in the round, as long as we have numbers, we will be able to come out on top. And that's the key thing in Valorant in general, is like, even if you have a bad idea, even if it's the wrong idea in the moment, most of the time the numbers will prevail. And that's kind of what we started doing on map 2 and 3.
Okay. Now, this series was extremely important for you guys in terms of playoff implications, Masters implications, just momentum heading into next week because you guys got G2. Looking at your team, how content are you with the performance, you specifically? And what takeaways do you have after such a wild Game 1 and a bounce back to Game 2 and 3?
I'm content in the fact that we won, and it was like the clean 2 maps. I'm happy about that. I'm happy that the boys were able to like bounce back from that individually as well as like as a team. Obviously map 1 was our pick, so to lose that in the fashion that we did, those are mistakes that simply can't happen versus a better team in G2. And yeah, as far as like going forward, regardless of which opponent we have, G2 or whoever, it's just the goal is always to win, but it goes round by round, and we just need to focus on each round as like its own thing. And it's always game by game. So I'm looking forward to it, honestly.
Now, looking at the roster, as the IGL of the team, how would you say the roster is fitting together? You've had a lot of time to work with Brock now. How do you think the roster is kind of gelling together and working together?
So far it's been great. I mean, practice has been going well. We have a lot of good conversations about things we need to fix. We also implement a lot of those fixes, and that's one thing that I'm really happy about with this team is even with our previous iterations, the one thing that I've always been proud of with this specific core is everyone is constantly saying what's on their mind, and then we're figuring out ways to fix it, and then we're actually implementing that fix in practice. Then again, the biggest thing for I think any team is the challenge of doing what you do in practice and then translating it in a match. And I think today we saw like how badly we can play, aka map 1, to how well we can play when we do the things correctly. End of the day, it is obviously confidence based, but people just need to do what they're supposed to do and do their jobs. And I have a lot of confidence in this team if we can keep that mentality up for future games.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how do you think the team dynamic has changed off and on stage? Because there was a lot of changes. So how has it been going for you guys in terms of that? Like,
it's good. I mean, it's been pretty much like most of the team has stayed together the same. So, I mean, we just do what we have to do. Everyone has their own match day routines. Everyone kind of gets along. There's no like issues when it comes to any of that. Everyone's kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing. And everyone, like I said, when everyone's getting along with the fact that you're able to say anything to anyone at any point and having that freedom on the team, it helps a lot with communication. And when you're able to get that communication through to like every single player on the team along with the code, it progresses things a lot faster than it would be if you weren't able to do that. So I'm pretty happy with how people have been kind of handling themselves on the team. And like overall, I'm pretty happy with our practice in general, like how we've tried to implement new comps, stuck with some old ones, and like had those conversations in order to move forward.
Nice. Okay. I have a couple questions not to do with the games. It's about Valorant as a whole. There's
Okay.
been a lot of discussion around the state of Valorant.
Yeah.
You know, clips from popular streamers like Tens talking about precise gunplay, and then everyone's complaining about the state of utility in the game. A Chronicle from Fnatic was talking about Valorant is split into a triangle, three sides: shooting, team play, and utility, and that utility is overlapping the two other sides a lot. In your opinion, do you feel like the prevalence of utility has become a problem that needs to be addressed?
Funny that he made that tweet because I made that tweet 3 years ago. But it wasn't exactly that whole like triangle thing. It was more
Yeah.
so his main suggestion was get rid of
Cooldowns, the recharge.
cooldown util.
Yeah.
Recharge util. Just get rid of that for initiators.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge thing because it punishes. The thing is, it increases the skill gap of the end of like the entire region of everyone playing the game.
Mhm.
If you get rid of the cooldowns, because players have to now be careful on where they use specific abilities. If you only have one breach stun, you now have to use it either for map control or for the execute in the bomb site. And that allows more critical thinking to be done than being able to just constantly breach stun 3-4 times in a round potentially. And same thing with Sova Dart, same thing with Fade Eye. These are abilities that, along with them adding Teo the way they did, that's why it feels so overwhelming because there's cooldowns. And I completely agreed with what he's saying.
Yeah.
I said this 3 years ago, like just get rid of cooldowns,
Yeah.
right? But then everyone just said you just want the game to be like Counter-Strike, but it's not the case. It's like
Yeah.
in CS you get 2 flashes
Exactly.
and you get a scope and you get an HE, and
Yeah.
that's fine. But you have to specifically know at what point you need to use this utility. That util has to have some consequence
Mhm.
for you to like not get it back.
Yeah.
Right now there is no consequence on rechargeable util, so you can just use it anywhere at any point
Mhm.
during the round. I think that's what makes the game overwhelming overall. So I do agree with his overall point in that I think his suggestion is perfect.
Yeah.
Like you just get rid of cooldowns and at least make the cooldowns longer if you're not going to get rid of them entirely. But I just think it makes the skill ceiling of the game will be pretty insane overall. I think okay, in ranked and in, because a lot of these players are talking, like Tens for example is talking from a ranked perspective, but he just finished playing pro.
Yeah.
So he's talking from both perspectives. You have players like Chronicle saying the same thing. I'm glad people are bringing it up more now because it is very, very important. And it is obviously, as pro players, it's our job not to cry about it, but instead adapt. So you're not going to hear that many pro players like going out of their way to say something because they're always
Right.
going to get backlash of like, why are you crying? This is the way the game is. But at the end of the day, like you can improve the game.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
we're trying to help improve the game. And overall, like if you get rid of cooldown abilities and players are forced to then use that ability at a point where it's necessary in the round and then lose that ability, they've now used it. And I think that allows for a lot more gunplay, which is what he was saying, is like it allows for more people to actually take 1v1 fights without having to worry about util all the time. And I think that it'll make all the initiators underpowered, like not underpowered, but like leveled out. Because then you have to pick between a breach stun. What's more important to you, a breach stun, a Sova Dart, a fade eye, and that I think will bring more, I don't know, variety of comps to the game.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really good suggestion that I think people or Riot should definitely take a look at.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna shift. So this is for you now. This is a question about you and your career. Looking at your journey, you've already previously mentioned that you will be playing. This is your last year playing pro. So since that decision is looming, do you feel like that has put a little extra pressure on you to succeed this year?
No.
No.
If anything, it's just more motivation. But the pressure itself, that's just for other people, I think. And in general, it's not something that I like look at or look too much into. It just is what it is. Like I could have easily just said it wasn't my last year and not said anything.
Yeah.
But at that point, it's like I would rather be honest about what I'm thinking in my head to my teammates, to my fans, to whoever.
For sure.
And that's kind of the route I went with.
Okay.
And I think my teammates understand that. At the end of the day, it's better to be honest than just to keep that to yourself, especially when like it was probably pretty obvious that I would retire after this year, even if I didn't say anything. But yeah, it's not something that puts extra pressure on me. Not that I feel, at least. It's just more Like every match has always mattered a lot in this split, and
Yeah.
in any split, and in this entire the way Valorant works, when you only have 3 tournaments and you basically have to win every single time in order to get a shot at going to a Masters or a Champs, it's always been the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that pressure has always been very high in general. So
Okay.
me saying that I'm retiring doesn't add more to it. It's already maxed out.
Makes sense. As a veteran, what it would be one lesson you'd want to share with your younger teammates before you retire?
The biggest thing is for me inside the game, it's composure. Not trying to do too much and kind of letting the round settle. I think a lot of young players have a tendency to want to do something. They want to be on the go. They want to have a decision made. And a big part of this game is making a massive advantage in this game, if your team is able to do it, is making the opponent think and make them make the move sometimes. And don't rush into decisions. And that honestly is like low key kind of like life lesson as well. It's like don't rush
Yeah.
into a big decision that will cost you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of have to, in the moment, in a split second, decide whether the risk or reward is worth it and make a decision based off of that. And I think a lot of the times waiting is just better,
Mm-hmm.
and making a decision as a team as opposed to an individual. Now, that being said, there are situations where you do need to make split second decisions of doing something or do you just lose.
Right.
But most of the time in this game, you have the time to play with and you should just play with that. So for like younger players in general, not just my teammates or whoever, it's massive that you just kind of take your time in rounds and don't be overzealous on making a decision, because a lot of the times you're most likely going to end up guessing, which is the incorrect way to play the game.
Mm-hmm.